Logic 0, example 5.2, an interpretation for two expressions. So we can be given an interpretation that looks like this. And I'm going to clean it up here a little bit. And so what this says is that we have this expression, A only if B, and try to get in the habit of using the terminology the way that I'm using it. It helps to communicate. It helps for you to better understand what I'm saying if you're using the same lingo. And when you're working with fellow students, if you're using this lingo the way that I'm using it, it will be clearer when you're communicating. If you say A greater than B, or say something else like that, it can get confusing, and you might miscommunicate and waste a lot of time in that. So we say A only if B. So A only if B. And so A only if B is one expression, and then we have a comma, and then we say this here, we say this as not B. So we have two expressions. The first expression is A only if B. That's A only if B. And the second expression is not B. And we separate them by a comma with no spaces. Okay, just following our answer string kind of methodology, we don't put any spaces in here. So whenever you see a comma in the header here of an interpretation table, you want to treat this as one expression, and this is a second expression. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to put my opening tag up here. I'm going to do semicolons to here. And then I'm going to say A is odd from the interpretation, skipping material consequence. B is even. Now we can evaluate the material consequence, the only if. And the inputs are odd, even. So we go to the odd, even row, and we go over to material consequence, and it says that it is even. Now, this is the last thing we come to within this first expression. So this material consequence is the dominant operation, and that gets a numerical 0 as its value. And this 0 says that the entire expression evaluates to even. The comma is going to get an underscore so that the next thing after is directly underneath the negation. And B is even. And now we can evaluate the negation. We see that on the right, it has an even value. So we go to the table where the right-hand value is even, and it says that the negation of that is odd. So, and notice that we don't have anything here in the table for negation. It would be a 1, so it's odd. And here would be a 0 if the right-hand input is 1. But this is a bit redundant, and often we just leave these rows blank because we're really just interested in the right-hand input. Okay. So, and notice that what logical negation does is it flips the value from even to odd or from odd to even. B here is even, the negation flips it, negates it. All right. Now, there is the temptation to think that this is like a negative sign, like with the integers, like 0, 1, 2, 3, and then we have -1, -2, -3. Students often think that negation maps to a negative symbol, as in a negative number, but it doesn't. Those are logically distinct. They don't work the same way. So negation is what is described here in the lookup table. It flips a value from even to odd or from odd to even. Okay, so we have this evaluated, and so we're going to put a semicolon at the end of the line, and then we're going to do our closing tag. Oh, and make sure that you're using lowercase letters for these tags. I don't think I mentioned that in the earlier demonstration, but consistent with what we saw on Wikipedia, these sort of tags typically are all lowercase. Okay, so lowercase, that's important. If you use an uppercase T, the Google form is going to mark you wrong. Okay, so it has to be the exact correct password. You know, the answer string is like a password. You got to get it character for character, capitalization, counts. Okay, so that is the answer string for this example.